Ibrahim Traore's influence on African leaders. Ibrahim Traore, a prominent figure in African politics, has emerged as a transformative leader in Burkina Faso. Born in 1988 in Bobo Dioulasso, Traore's journey to leadership is marked by dedication, resilience, and a vision for his nation's future. Traore's early life was rooted in the vibrant culture of Burkina Faso. His strong sense of justice and community service led him to pursue a career in the military, where he quickly distinguished himself as a capable and strategic officer. Rising through the ranks, Traore's leadership qualities became evident during various military operations aimed at securing Burkina Faso against internal and external threats. His commitment to national security and his ability to inspire and lead his troops garnered him widespread respect. In October 2022, Traore's pivotal moment arrived when he led a successful coup, deposing the then-president, Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. This bold move was driven by a combination of public discontent over the government's handling of security issues and Traore's vision for a more stable and prosperous Burkina Faso. Since assuming leadership, Ibrahim Traore has embarked on a mission to address the core challenges facing his country. His policies have focused on anti-corruption measures, economic reforms, and social improvements, aiming to uplift the Burkinabe people and set a precedent for leadership across the continent. Traore's rise to power and his subsequent actions have not only reshaped Burkina Faso but have also begun to influence other African leaders, prompting a wave of reform and new governance approaches throughout the region. Ibrahim Traore's dynamic leadership in Burkina Faso is not only reshaping his own country but is also having a significant ripple effect across Africa. Since coming to power, Traore's decisive actions and bold reforms have caught the attention of leaders throughout the continent. In his short tenure, Traore's emphasis on anti-corruption measures has set a new standard for transparency and accountability in governance. His firm stance against corruption has inspired several neighboring countries to adopt similar policies, aiming to root out systemic issues that have long plagued their administrations. Economic reforms under Traore's leadership have focused on diversifying Burkina Faso's economy and promoting sustainable development. This approach is gaining traction among other African leaders who are now exploring ways to implement economic diversification in their own countries, seeking to reduce dependency on single commodities and foster broader economic growth. Traore's commitment to regional security and collaboration has also been a significant point of influence. By strengthening alliances and engaging in joint security initiatives, he has encouraged other leaders to prioritize regional stability and cooperation. This has led to enhanced collective efforts in combating terrorism and cross-border threats, showcasing a unified front in addressing security challenges. Social policies championed by Traore, particularly in education and healthcare, are resonating across Africa. His focus on improving these critical sectors is inspiring other leaders to invest more in their own educational and healthcare systems, recognizing the long-term benefits of a well-educated and healthy population. Traore's leadership style, characterized by a blend of pragmatism and visionary thinking, has become a model for others. His ability to connect with the populace, address pressing issues head-on, and drive meaningful change is prompting a wave of new leadership approaches across the continent. As more African leaders observe and emulate Traore's strategies, his influence continues to grow, marking the beginning of a potential era of reform and innovation in African governance. Ibrahim Traore's journey to leadership in Burkina Faso is a testament to his dedication, strategic acumen, and vision for his country. Born in 1988 in Bobo Dioulasso, Traore grew up amidst the rich cultural heritage of Burkina Faso. His early years were marked by a strong sense of justice and a desire to serve his community, which eventually led him to a career in the military. Military career. Traore joined the military with a clear focus on contributing to national security and stability. He quickly rose through the ranks, earning a reputation as a skilled and strategic officer. His early assignments included various roles in combat and operational planning, where he demonstrated exceptional leadership and tactical expertise. Significant milestones. 1. Early recognition, 2015. Traore's potential was recognized early on when he was involved in key military operations aimed at countering insurgency and maintaining internal security. His decisive actions during these operations earned him commendations and set the stage for his future leadership roles. 2. Rising through the ranks, 2017 to 2020. Over the next few years, Traore continued to distinguish himself in various capacities within the military. His leadership during critical security challenges, particularly in regions affected by terrorist activities, showcased his ability to manage complex and high-stakes situations. 3. Leading anti-terror operations, 2021. By 2021, Traore was at the forefront of Burkina Faso's efforts to combat terrorism and insurgency. His strategic planning and execution of anti-terror operations significantly weakened militant groups, earning him further respect and recognition both within the military and among the civilian population. 4. The 2022 coup. The turning point in Traore's career came in October 2022, when he led a coup that ousted then-President Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. The coup was driven by widespread dissatisfaction with the government's handling of security issues and a desire for more effective leadership. 5. Assumption of power. Following the successful coup, Traore assumed leadership of Burkina Faso. His rise to power was met with a mixture of hope and cautious optimism, as many Burkinabe citizens saw him as a leader capable of addressing the country's pressing challenges. Leadership and policies. Since coming to power, Ibrahim Traore has focused on several key areas. Anti-corruption measures. Traore implemented stringent anti-corruption policies, aiming to restore public trust in the government and ensure the fair use of national resources. Economic reforms. His administration has pursued economic diversification and development, promoting sustainable growth and reducing dependency on single commodities. Regional security. Traore has strengthened Burkina Faso's regional alliances and collaborative security efforts, enhancing the country's ability to combat terrorism and maintain stability. Social policies. His government has prioritized improvements in education and healthcare, recognizing the importance of these sectors for the country's long-term development. Ibrahim Traore's journey from a dedicated military officer to the leader of Burkina Faso reflects his commitment to his country and his ability to inspire and lead through challenging times. His actions and policies continue to influence not only Burkina Faso but also the broader African political landscape. Ibrahim Traore's leadership from 2023 to 2024. Following his rise to power in September 2022, Ibrahim Traore's leadership from 2023 to 2024 has been marked by various efforts to stabilize Burkina Faso and address its numerous challenges. Security and counterinsurgency efforts. Strengthening military operations. Traore intensified military operations against terrorist groups and insurgents in the Sahel region. His administration increased funding and support for the military, focusing on improving training, equipment, and strategic coordination. Regional cooperation. Traore sought to bolster regional cooperation with neighboring countries to combat cross-border terrorism. Joint operations and intelligence sharing initiatives were enhanced to address the insurgency more effectively. Governance and reforms. Transitional government. Traore's transitional government worked on drafting a new constitution aimed at restoring democratic processes. Efforts were made to ensure transparency and inclusiveness in the political process to hold elections by 2024. Anti-corruption measures. Traore prioritized fighting corruption within the government and military. Several high-profile investigations and prosecutions were launched to address corrupt practices and restore public trust. Economic and social policies. Economic stabilization. Traore's administration implemented measures to stabilize the economy, which had been severely impacted by insecurity and global economic conditions. Policies focused on attracting foreign investment, boosting agricultural productivity, and supporting small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs. Humanitarian initiatives. Addressing the humanitarian crisis caused by the insurgency was a key focus. Traore's government worked with international organizations to provide aid and support to displaced populations and communities affected by violence. International relations. Diplomatic engagements. Traore engaged with international partners to secure support for Burkina Faso's security and development efforts. Relations with key allies, such as France and the United States, were maintained, while also seeking new partnerships. Regional leadership. Traore positioned Burkina Faso as a proactive leader in regional security initiatives. The country played a significant role in the G5 Sahel Joint Force, aimed at combating terrorism and promoting stability in the region. Challenges and criticisms. Persistent security threats. Despite efforts, terrorist attacks and insurgent activities remained a significant challenge. The security situation in some regions of Burkina Faso continued to be volatile, requiring ongoing military and humanitarian interventions. Political tensions. The transition process faced criticisms from various political factions and civil society groups. Concerns were raised about the pace of democratic reforms and the inclusiveness of the political dialogue. Future prospects. Upcoming elections. The planned elections in 2024 were seen as a critical test for Traore's leadership and commitment to democratic transition. Preparations for free and fair elections were underway, with international observers expected to monitor the process. Long-term stability. Traore's ability to deliver on his promises of security, economic development, and good governance will be crucial for the long-term stability of Burkina Faso. His leadership is poised to shape the future trajectory of the country, with significant implications for regional stability as well. From 2023 to 2024, Ibrahim Traore's tenure has been characterized by concerted efforts to address Burkina Faso's pressing security, political, and economic challenges. The success of these initiatives will largely determine his legacy and the country's path forward. Key policies and actions taken by Traore since coming to power. Anti-corruption measures. One of Traore's first major initiatives was to tackle corruption, a pervasive issue in Burkina Faso. He established an anti-corruption task force empowered to investigate and prosecute corrupt officials. This task force has been instrumental in increasing government transparency and accountability. His administration has also introduced measures to improve financial management and ensure that public funds are used effectively for the country's development. Economic reforms. Traore has launched several economic reforms aimed at diversifying Burkina Faso's economy. His government is focusing on agriculture, mining, and renewable energy as key sectors for development. Initiatives to support small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, have been introduced to stimulate local entrepreneurship and create jobs. Traore has also pursued foreign investment, securing partnerships to bolster infrastructure projects, such as road construction, energy supply, and technology development. Regional security initiatives. Recognizing the significant threat posed by terrorism and insurgency, Traore has prioritized regional security. He has strengthened Burkina Faso's military capabilities through increased funding, better training, and enhanced equipment. Traore has fostered closer cooperation with neighboring countries, leading joint military operations to combat cross-border terrorism and organized crime. These efforts have resulted in significant successes in reducing militant activities in the Sahel region. Social policies. Traore's administration has placed a strong emphasis on improving education and healthcare. He has increased funding for schools, aiming to provide better facilities, training for teachers, and access to quality education for all children. In healthcare, Traore has focused on expanding access to medical services, particularly in rural areas. Initiatives include building new clinics, improving existing facilities, and launching health campaigns to address prevalent issues such as malaria and maternal health. Agricultural development. Agriculture being a cornerstone of Burkina Faso's economy, Traore has implemented policies to modernize and support this sector. Programs to provide farmers with better seeds, tools, and training are helping to increase productivity and sustainability. Efforts to improve irrigation and water management are ensuring that agriculture can thrive even in areas affected by climate change and irregular rainfall patterns. Youth and women empowerment. Traore has launched initiatives aimed at empowering youth and women, recognizing their crucial role in the country's development. Vocational training programs and entrepreneurship support are helping young people and women to gain skills and start their businesses. Policies to promote gender equality and protect women's rights are being strengthened, ensuring that women can participate fully in the social and economic life of the country. Ibrahim Traore's policies and actions reflect his commitment to building a more prosperous, secure, and equitable Burkina Faso. His leadership is setting a new standard in governance and development, with the potential to inspire similar reforms across Africa. Influence on neighboring countries. Ibrahim Traore's dynamic leadership and impactful policies in Burkina Faso have not gone unnoticed by neighboring countries. His bold actions have inspired several leaders in the region to adopt similar strategies, aiming to replicate his successes. Here are some notable examples of how neighboring countries have responded to Traore's policies. Anti-corruption initiatives. In Mali, the government has taken significant steps to combat corruption, inspired by Traore's robust anti-corruption measures. New legislation has been enacted to enhance transparency and accountability, with a special focus on auditing government officials and public funds. Niger has followed suit by establishing a similar anti-corruption task force aimed at investigating and prosecuting corrupt practices within the government. This move has already led to several high-profile investigations and a renewed public trust in governmental institutions. Economic reforms. Traore's economic diversification strategies have resonated in Ghana, where the government is now focusing on reducing its reliance on gold and cocoa by investing in renewable energy and technology sectors. In Ivory Coast, there has been a push to support small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, similar to Traore's initiatives. This includes providing better access to financing, training programs, and creating an enabling environment for entrepreneurship. Regional security collaboration. Niger and Mali have deepened their military cooperation with Burkina Faso, engaging in joint operations to combat terrorism in the Sahel region. These coordinated efforts have led to significant successes in reducing militant activities and securing border areas. Chad has also increased its collaboration with Burkina Faso, sharing intelligence and resources to enhance regional security. This partnership has improved the overall effectiveness of counterterrorism operations in the region. Social policies. Togo has taken inspiration from Traore's focus on education and healthcare by increasing its budget allocations for these sectors. Efforts are being made to improve educational infrastructure and expand access to healthcare services, particularly in rural areas. Benin has launched new healthcare initiatives aimed at reducing maternal and infant mortality, drawing on successful programs implemented in Burkina Faso. These initiatives include the construction of new clinics and the training of healthcare workers. Agricultural development. Ghana has adopted similar agricultural policies to those of Traore, focusing on modernizing farming practices and improving irrigation systems. This is aimed at increasing food security and boosting agricultural productivity. Togo has initiated programs to support small-scale farmers with better access to seeds, tools, and training, mirroring the agricultural development strategies seen in Burkina Faso. Youth and women empowerment. Ivory Coast has launched youth empowerment programs that provide vocational training and entrepreneurial support, inspired by Traore's focus on building skills among the youth. Ghana has implemented new policies to promote gender equality and support women's cooperatives, aiming to enhance women's participation in the economy and social development. Ibrahim Traore's policies have sparked a wave of reform across neighboring countries, highlighting the power of effective leadership and regional collaboration. As these nations implement similar strategies, the potential for collective growth and stability in West Africa continues to increase, setting a promising path for the future. Specific instances of similar reforms or initiatives adopted in neighboring countries. Ibrahim Traore's impactful policies and leadership in Burkina Faso have inspired specific reforms and initiatives in neighboring countries. Here are some notable examples of similar policies being adopted. Anti-corruption initiatives. Mali, anti-corruption legislation. Inspired by Traore's anti-corruption task force, Mali has introduced new legislation to combat corruption. This includes the establishment of an independent anti-corruption commission with powers to audit government officials and public funds. The initiative has already led to several high-profile investigations and increased public trust in the government. Niger, anti-corruption task force. Niger has followed Burkina Faso's example by creating an anti-corruption task force. This body is empowered to investigate and prosecute corruption cases, leading to a significant reduction in corrupt practices within the government and public sector. Economic reforms. Ghana, economic diversification. Ghana has adopted economic diversification strategies similar to those in Burkina Faso. The government is investing heavily in renewable energy projects and technology hubs, aiming to reduce reliance on traditional commodities like gold and cocoa. This approach is expected to create new job opportunities and fosters sustainable economic growth. Ivory Coast, SME support programs. In response to Traore's support for small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, Ivory Coast has launched programs to provide better access to financing and business training for local entrepreneurs. These initiatives are designed to stimulate economic activity and empower local businesses to thrive. Regional security collaboration. Mali and Niger, joint military operations. Inspired by Traore's focus on regional security, Mali and Niger have increased their military cooperation with Burkina Faso. They have conducted joint operations to combat terrorism and insurgency in the Sahel region, resulting in significant successes in reducing militant activities and enhancing border security. Chad, intelligence sharing and resource allocation. Chad has strengthened its partnership with Burkina Faso by enhancing intelligence sharing and allocating resources for joint counterterrorism operations. This collaboration has improved the effectiveness of security measures and fostered a unified approach to regional threats. Social policies. Togo, education and healthcare investment. Togo has taken inspiration from Traore's emphasis on education and healthcare by significantly increasing its budget allocations for these sectors. The government is building new schools, improving existing educational infrastructure, and expanding healthcare services, particularly in rural areas. Benin, maternal and infant health programs. Benin has launched healthcare initiatives focused on reducing maternal and infant mortality, drawing on successful programs implemented in Burkina Faso. These efforts include constructing new maternal health clinics and providing comprehensive training for healthcare workers. Agricultural development. Ghana, modernizing farming practices. Ghana has adopted agricultural policies similar to those of Traore, focusing on modernizing farming practices and improving irrigation systems. These initiatives aim to increase food security, boost agricultural productivity, and ensure sustainable farming in the face of climate change. Togo, support for small-scale farmers. Togo has initiated programs to support small-scale farmers by providing better access to quality seeds, tools, and training. This approach mirrors Burkina Faso's agricultural development strategies and is helping to enhance the livelihoods of rural communities. Youth and women empowerment. Ivory Coast, vocational training programs. Ivory Coast has launched youth empowerment programs that provide vocational training and entrepreneurial support, inspired by Traore's focus on building skills among the youth. These programs aim to equip young people with the skills needed to enter the job market or start their businesses. Ghana, gender equality and women's cooperatives. Ghana has implemented new policies to promote gender equality and support women's cooperatives. These initiatives are designed to enhance women's participation in the economy and social development, reflecting the successful women empowerment strategies seen in Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traore's policies have sparked a wave of reform across neighboring countries, highlighting the power of effective leadership and regional collaboration. As these nations implement similar strategies, the potential for collective growth and stability in West Africa continues to increase, setting a promising path for the future. Influence on broader African leadership. Analysis of how Traore's leadership style and policies are inspiring a broader range of African leaders. Ibrahim Traore's leadership style and policies have not only impacted Burkina Faso and its immediate neighbors, but are also inspiring a broader range of African leaders. His approach is setting a new standard for governance and development across the continent. Here is an analysis of how Traore's leadership is influencing a wider spectrum of African leaders. Decisive and pragmatic leadership. Traore's decisiveness and pragmatic approach to governance are being emulated by leaders across Africa. His ability to take swift, impactful actions in response to pressing challenges demonstrates a model of leadership that prioritizes results over rhetoric. This has encouraged other leaders to adopt a more hands-on and pragmatic approach to addressing their country's issues. Anti-corruption and transparency. The success of Traore's anti-corruption measures has resonated deeply with African leaders facing similar challenges. By establishing robust systems for transparency and accountability, Traore has shown that corruption can be effectively tackled. This has inspired a wave of anti-corruption reforms across the continent, with leaders in countries like Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa implementing stricter anti-corruption policies and enhancing transparency in government operations. Economic diversification and innovation. Traore's focus on economic diversification and innovation is being mirrored by leaders in various African nations. His emphasis on developing sectors such as agriculture, renewable energy, and technology is encouraging other leaders to explore similar strategies. Countries like Rwanda, Ethiopia, and Botswana are investing in diversified economic activities to reduce dependency on traditional commodities and drive sustainable growth. Regional cooperation and security. Traore's commitment to regional security and cooperation is fostering a spirit of unity among African leaders. His initiatives in collaborating with neighboring countries to combat terrorism and insurgency are setting a precedent for collective security efforts. This is inspiring regional bodies such as the African Union, (EU), and the Economic Community of West African States, (ECOWAS), to strengthen their security frameworks and enhance collaborative efforts to address common threats. Social development and human capital investment. Traore's policies on social development, particularly in education and healthcare, are serving as a blueprint for other African leaders. His administration's investment in these critical sectors is highlighting the importance of human capital development. This is prompting countries like Uganda, Tanzania, and Senegal to prioritize education and healthcare improvements, recognizing their long-term benefits for national development. Youth and women empowerment. Traore's focus on empowering youth and women is inspiring a broader movement across Africa. By providing vocational training, supporting entrepreneurship, and promoting gender equality, he is setting an example for inclusive governance. This is influencing leaders in countries such as Ghana, Zambia, and Namibia to launch similar empowerment programs, fostering a more inclusive and equitable society. Sustainable development and environmental stewardship. Traore's commitment to sustainable development and environmental stewardship is resonating with African leaders who are increasingly aware of the impacts of climate change. His initiatives in promoting renewable energy and sustainable agricultural practices are inspiring countries like Morocco, Kenya, and South Africa to adopt greener policies and invest in environmental conservation efforts. Ibrahim Traore's leadership style and policies are creating a ripple effect across Africa, inspiring a new wave of governance that prioritizes transparency, economic diversification, social development, and regional cooperation. As more African leaders adopt similar strategies, the potential for collective progress and sustainable development across the continent continues to grow, paving the way for a brighter future for Africa. Case studies of countries where Traore's influence is evident in policy shifts or political rhetoric. Ibrahim Traore's leadership in Burkina Faso has had a profound impact on several African countries, where his influence is evident in policy shifts and political rhetoric. Here are some case studies illustrating this influence. Case Study 1, Mali. Mali, like Burkina Faso, has faced significant challenges with corruption and security threats. Inspired by Traore's decisive measures, Mali's government has embarked on a similar path of reform. Policy shifts. In 2023, Mali introduced comprehensive anti-corruption legislation, establishing an independent anti-corruption commission modeled after Burkina Faso's task force. This commission has been actively auditing government officials and public funds, leading to high-profile prosecutions and a marked reduction in corrupt practices. Political rhetoric. President Assimi Goïta has frequently referenced Traore's success in his speeches, emphasizing the need for transparency and accountability. This alignment in rhetoric highlights a shared vision for combating corruption and fostering good governance. Case Study 2, Ghana. Background. Ghana has been seeking to diversify its economy and reduce its dependence on traditional commodities like gold and cocoa. Traore's economic diversification strategies have provided a blueprint for these efforts. Policy shifts. The Ghanaian government has launched several initiatives to boost sectors such as renewable energy and technology. Inspired by Burkina Faso's success, Ghana has invested in solar and wind energy projects and established technology parks to foster innovation and entrepreneurship. Political rhetoric. President Nana Akufo-Addo has highlighted Traore's policies in his public addresses, underscoring the importance of economic diversification and innovation. This rhetoric reflects a commitment to following a similar developmental path. Case Study 3, Ivory Coast. Background. Ivory Coast has been working to improve its economic landscape by supporting small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, and empowering youth and women. Traore's focus on these areas has served as an inspiration. Policy shifts. The government has introduced new programs to provide better access to financing and training for SMEs, mirroring Burkina Faso's initiatives. Additionally, Ivory Coast has launched extensive vocational training programs for youth and implemented policies to promote gender equality and support women's cooperatives. Political rhetoric. President Alassane Ouattara has frequently cited Traore's achievements, advocating for similar reforms in Ivory Coast. His speeches emphasized the importance of economic empowerment and social inclusion, aligning with Traore's vision. Case Study 4, Niger. Background. Niger, facing severe security threats from terrorism and insurgency, has looked to Traore's regional security initiatives for guidance. Policy shifts. Niger has significantly increased its military cooperation with Burkina Faso, engaging in joint operations to combat terrorism in the Sahel region. The government has also enhanced its military capabilities, investing in better training and equipment for its armed forces. Political rhetoric. President Mohamed Bazoum has praised Traore's leadership in regional security, advocating for stronger collaboration among Sahel countries. His rhetoric underscores a unified approach to combating shared security threats. Case Study 5, Togo. Background. Togo has been focused on improving its social sectors, particularly education and healthcare. Traore's policies in these areas have provided a model for Togo's reforms. Policy shifts. The Togolese government has increased its investment in building new schools and healthcare facilities, aiming to expand access to quality education and medical services. Programs similar to those in Burkina Faso have been launched to address rural healthcare and educational disparities. Political rhetoric. President Faure Gnassingbé has referenced Traore's social policies in his public addresses, highlighting the importance of investing in human capital for national development. This alignment in rhetoric demonstrates a shared commitment to social progress. Conclusion. Ibrahim Traore's leadership and policies have had a significant ripple effect across Africa, inspiring similar reforms and influencing political rhetoric in several countries. These case studies illustrate how Traore's vision is being adopted and adapted to address local challenges, fostering a new era of governance and development across the continent. Influence on broader African leadership. Analysis of Traore's impact. Ibrahim Traore's leadership style and policies in Burkina Faso have resonated beyond its borders, influencing a broader range of African leaders. His approach has set a new standard for governance and development, inspiring transformative changes across the continent. Here's an analysis of how Traore's leadership is shaping African leadership. Decisive and action-oriented leadership. Impact. Traore's decisive leadership in tackling Burkina Faso's challenges has inspired African leaders to adopt a more action-oriented approach. Examples. Leaders in countries like Mali, Niger, and Ghana have emphasized the need for swift and decisive action in addressing issues ranging from corruption to security threats. Traore's ability to implement reforms swiftly, such as anti-corruption measures and economic diversification, has demonstrated the effectiveness of proactive governance. Anti-corruption and transparency. Impact. Traore's success in combating corruption has prompted other African leaders to prioritize transparency and accountability. Examples. Countries like Nigeria and Kenya have strengthened their anti-corruption agencies and enacted stricter laws following Burkina Faso's example. Traore's establishment of anti-corruption task forces and initiatives to enhance governmental transparency have set benchmarks for fighting corruption across the continent. Economic diversification and innovation. Impact. Traore's focus on economic diversification and innovation has influenced economic policies in other African nations. Examples. Countries such as Ethiopia and Rwanda have launched initiatives to diversify their economies beyond traditional sectors like agriculture and mining. Traore's emphasis on technology, renewable energy, and SME support has spurred similar investments in innovation and sustainable development. Regional security and cooperation. Impact. Traore's regional security initiatives have encouraged collaboration among African countries to address common security challenges. Examples. The Sahel region, including countries like Mali, Niger, and Chad, has seen increased cooperation in joint military operations and intelligence sharing. Traore's leadership in combating terrorism and organized crime has fostered a unified approach to regional security threats. Social development and human capital investment. Impact. Traore's policies focusing on education, healthcare, and youth empowerment have influenced social development agendas across Africa. Examples. Countries like Togo and Ivory Coast have invested in improving educational infrastructure, expanding healthcare access, and empowering youth and women. Traore's initiatives to enhance human capital through vocational training, gender equality programs, and healthcare improvements have set precedents for inclusive development strategies. Environmental sustainability. Impact. Traore's commitment to environmental sustainability has spurred action on climate change and conservation efforts. Examples. Countries such as Kenya, Morocco, and South Africa have implemented policies to promote renewable energy, combat deforestation, and mitigate environmental degradation. Traore's initiatives in promoting sustainable agriculture and environmental stewardship have influenced broader environmental policies in Africa. Conclusion: Ibrahim Traore's leadership in Burkina Faso has had a profound impact on African leadership, inspiring a shift towards proactive governance, transparency, economic diversification, regional cooperation, and social development. By setting an example of decisive action and visionary leadership, Traore continues to shape the future of governance in Africa, fostering a more stable, prosperous, and equitable continent. His influence underscores the potential for transformative leadership to drive positive change across Africa's diverse landscapes and challenges. Case studies of countries where Traore's influence is evident in policy shifts or political rhetoric. Ibrahim Traore's leadership in Burkina Faso has not only transformed the country but has also influenced policy shifts and political rhetoric in several African nations. Here are case studies highlighting Traore's impact. Case Study 1, Mali. Background: Mali, facing challenges with corruption and security threats, has looked to Traore's governance as a model for reform. Policy shifts. Inspired by Traore's anti-corruption measures, Mali enacted comprehensive legislation to establish an independent anti-corruption commission. This commission mirrors Burkina Faso's task force and has been instrumental in auditing public officials and prosecuting corruption cases. Political rhetoric. President Assimi Goïta has emphasized Traore's success in combating corruption in his speeches, aligning Mali's governance priorities with Burkina Faso's transparency and accountability agenda. Case Study 2, Ghana. Background: Ghana, seeking to diversify its economy and foster innovation, has drawn inspiration from Traore's economic policies. Policy shifts. Ghanaian initiatives include investments in renewable energy projects and technology hubs, reflecting Traore's emphasis on economic diversification and innovation. Political rhetoric. President Nana Akufo-Addo frequently references Traore's economic strategies in his public addresses, advocating for similar reforms to reduce dependency on traditional commodities and promote sustainable growth. Case Study 3, Ivory Coast. Background: Ivory Coast has prioritized economic empowerment and social development, influenced by Traore's policies. Policy shifts. The Ivorian government has implemented programs to support SMEs, enhance vocational training for youth, and promote gender equality, echoing Traore's inclusive development agenda. Political rhetoric. President Alassane Ouattara has highlighted Traore's achievements in social development, emphasizing the importance of investing in human capital and empowering marginalized groups. Case Study 4, Niger. Background: Niger, grappling with security challenges in the Sahel region, has aligned with Traore's regional security initiatives. Policy shifts. Niger has strengthened military cooperation with Burkina Faso and neighboring countries, participating in joint operations to combat terrorism and enhance border security. Political rhetoric. President Mohamed Bazoum has praised Traore's leadership in regional security, advocating for collective efforts among Sahelian nations to address common security threats. Case Study 5, Togo. Background: Togo has focused on improving education, healthcare, and infrastructure, inspired by Traore's social development policies. Policy shifts. Togo has increased investments in educational infrastructure and healthcare facilities, mirroring Traore's efforts to enhance social services and reduce disparities. Political rhetoric. President Faure Gnassingbé has referenced Traore's approach to social development in his speeches, emphasizing the need for inclusive growth and human capital investment. Case Study 6, Kenya. Background: Kenya, addressing corruption and promoting transparency, has looked to Traore's governance as a model for anti-corruption reforms. Policy shifts. Kenya has strengthened its anti-corruption agencies and enacted stricter laws, drawing inspiration from Burkina Faso's efforts to combat corruption and enhance accountability. Political rhetoric. Kenyan leaders have cited Traore's success in fighting corruption in their public statements, signaling a commitment to adopting similar measures to improve governance. Conclusion: Ibrahim Traore's leadership in Burkina Faso has exerted a significant influence on policy shifts and political rhetoric in various African countries. From anti-corruption reforms to economic diversification and regional security cooperation, Traore's policies have inspired a wave of governance reforms aimed at addressing local challenges and fostering sustainable development. These case studies illustrate how Traore's leadership continues to shape the discourse and priorities of African nations, paving the way for a more accountable, inclusive, and prosperous continent. Challenges and criticisms faced by Ibrahim Traore. Ibrahim Traore, as a leader of Burkina Faso, faces a range of challenges both domestically and internationally. These challenges shape the context in which his policies and leadership decisions are evaluated. Here's a discussion of the key challenges and criticisms Traore encounters. Domestic challenges. 1. Security threats. Context. Burkina Faso continues to grapple with persistent security threats from terrorist groups and armed militias, particularly in the northern and eastern regions. Challenge. Maintaining national security and stability while combating terrorism remains a daunting task for Traore's administration. Despite efforts to strengthen security forces and collaborate with neighboring countries, attacks continue to pose a significant challenge to governance and development. 2. Economic development. Context. Burkina Faso faces economic challenges, including high unemployment rates, poverty, and reliance on agriculture. Challenge. Implementing sustainable economic policies to diversify the economy beyond agriculture and mining is crucial. However, achieving tangible economic growth and improving living standards for citizens remains a pressing challenge. 3. Social services and infrastructure. Context. Access to quality healthcare, education, and basic infrastructure remains limited in many parts of Burkina Faso, especially in rural areas. Challenge. Addressing disparities in social services and infrastructure development requires significant investments and effective governance. Traore's efforts to improve these sectors face challenges of funding constraints and logistical difficulties. 4. Political stability and governance. Context. Burkina Faso has experienced political instability in the past, including coups and civil unrest. Challenge. Strengthening democratic institutions, promoting political inclusivity, and ensuring transparent governance are ongoing challenges. Managing political tensions and fostering national unity are essential for long-term stability and development. International challenges. 1. Regional security and cooperation. Context. Burkina Faso's security challenges have regional implications, requiring cooperation with neighboring countries and international partners. Challenge. Maintaining effective regional security cooperation amid diverse interests and capabilities of neighboring countries is critical. Differences in approach and priorities among regional partners can complicate efforts to combat transnational threats effectively. 2. Foreign relations and diplomacy. Context. Burkina Faso's foreign policy is influenced by regional dynamics and global partnerships. Challenge. Balancing relations with diverse international actors while safeguarding national interests poses diplomatic challenges. Navigating geopolitical tensions and dependencies on foreign aid and investment requires strategic diplomacy and negotiation skills. 3. Economic dependencies and development aid. Context. Burkina Faso relies on development aid and foreign investment for economic development and infrastructure projects. Challenge. Ensuring sustainable development amidst fluctuating aid flows and economic dependencies on external actors is a challenge. Managing expectations of international donors while pursuing national development priorities requires careful navigation. 4. Global health and environmental challenges. Context. Global issues such as climate change and public health crises affect Burkina Faso's development agenda. Challenge. Addressing environmental sustainability and public health challenges, such as access to healthcare and climate resilience, amid global uncertainties requires proactive policies and international cooperation. Criticisms. 1. Governance and transparency. Criticism. Traore's administration faces scrutiny regarding governance practices, transparency, and accountability. Concerns. Critics highlight challenges in ensuring transparency in government operations, combating corruption effectively, and promoting inclusive decision-making processes. 2. Human rights and civil liberties. Criticism. Human rights organizations and activists criticize Traore's government for alleged violations of civil liberties and freedoms. Concerns. Issues related to freedom of speech, press freedom, and human rights abuses are points of contention both domestically and internationally. 3. Economic management. Criticism. Some analysts question the effectiveness of economic policies in addressing poverty and inequality. Concerns. Challenges in achieving inclusive economic growth, reducing unemployment, and improving living standards for all segments of society are areas where Traore's government faces criticism. Conclusion. Ibrahim Traore's leadership in Burkina Faso is marked by significant challenges, ranging from security threats and economic development issues domestically to navigating complex regional dynamics and international relations. Criticisms regarding governance practices, human rights, and economic management also contribute to the complexities of his leadership. Addressing these challenges requires strategic planning, effective governance, and proactive engagement with domestic and international stakeholders to achieve sustainable development and stability in Burkina Faso. Criticisms from opposition groups and international bodies impact on Ibrahim Traore's influence. Ibrahim Traore, as a leader of Burkina Faso, faces significant criticisms from opposition groups and international bodies. These criticisms not only impact his domestic standing but also affect his influence on other African leaders. Here's an analysis of the criticisms and their implications. Criticisms from opposition groups. 1. Governance and transparency. Criticism. Opposition groups often criticize Traore's government for lacking transparency and accountability in decision-making processes. Concerns. Allegations of corruption, nepotism, and lack of inclusive governance practices undermine public trust and fuel opposition rhetoric. 2. Human rights and civil liberties. Criticism. Opposition parties and human rights organizations accuse Traore's administration of human rights abuses, including restrictions on freedom of speech and political dissent. Concerns. Incidents of political repression, media censorship, and crackdowns on protests provoke domestic unrest and international condemnation. 3. Economic management. Criticism. Economic policies are scrutinized for their effectiveness in addressing poverty, unemployment, and economic inequality. Concerns. Opposition critiques focus on disparities in wealth distribution, insufficient social safety nets, and perceived favoritism towards corporate interests. Criticisms from international bodies. 1. Human rights violations. Criticism. International human rights bodies, such as the UN Human Rights Council and Amnesty International, highlight concerns over human rights violations in Burkina Faso. Concerns. Reports of extrajudicial killings, arbitrary arrests, and violations of due process undermine Burkina Faso's international standing and invite sanctions or diplomatic pressure. 2. Democratic backsliding. Criticism. International organizations monitor Burkina Faso's democratic practices and raise alarms over perceived democratic backsliding. Concerns. Issues such as electoral integrity, freedom of the press, and political pluralism are scrutinized for compliance with international democratic standards. 3. Security and stability. Criticism. Regional and international bodies express concerns over Burkina Faso's security challenges, particularly related to terrorism and armed conflict. Concerns. Instability in Burkina Faso could have spillover effects on neighboring countries and regional stability, prompting calls for enhanced international cooperation and support. Implications for influence on other leaders. 1. Diminished credibility. Impact. Criticisms from opposition groups and international bodies diminish Traore's credibility as a regional leader. Implication. Other African leaders may hesitate to emulate Traore's policies or align closely with Burkina Faso due to concerns over governance practices and human rights issues. 2. Diplomatic isolation. Impact. International criticisms could lead to diplomatic isolation or strained relations with key allies and international partners. Implication. Limited diplomatic support and cooperation may hinder Burkina Faso's influence in regional and international forums, affecting its ability to advocate for policy initiatives. 3. Leadership on regional issues. Impact. Challenges in governance and security undermine Traore's leadership role in addressing regional issues such as terrorism and economic integration. Implication. Other African leaders may seek alternative leadership or partnerships in addressing shared challenges, reducing Burkina Faso's influence in regional decision-making processes. Conclusion. Criticism from opposition groups and international bodies poses significant challenges to Ibrahim Traore's leadership in Burkina Faso and affects his influence on other African leaders. Issues related to governance transparency, human rights violations, and economic management diminish Burkina Faso's credibility and diplomatic standing, limiting Traore's ability to shape regional policies and initiatives effectively. Addressing these criticisms through genuine reforms and proactive engagement with domestic and international stakeholders is essential for restoring trust, enhancing influence, and promoting sustainable development in Burkina Faso and beyond. Speculation on the future impact of Ibrahim Traore's leadership in Africa. Ibrahim Traore's leadership in Burkina Faso is poised to have a lasting impact on African governance, potentially inspiring significant long-term changes across the continent. Here's a speculative look at how Traore's model could influence African governance in the future. Emphasis on transparency and accountability. Potential impact. Traore's commitment to transparency and accountability may encourage African leaders to prioritize governance reforms. Long-term change. Increased transparency in public administration, stronger anti-corruption measures, and enhanced accountability to citizens could become more prevalent across Africa. Governments may adopt mechanisms similar to Burkina Faso's anti-corruption task forces and transparency initiatives to rebuild public trust and foster good governance. Economic diversification and innovation. Potential impact. Traore's focus on economic diversification and innovation could inspire African countries to reduce reliance on traditional sectors and embrace technological advancements. Long-term change. African nations may invest more in renewable energy, technology hubs, and SME development. Economic policies could prioritize sustainable growth, job creation, and equitable distribution of resources, fostering resilient economies less vulnerable to global market fluctuations. Regional cooperation and security. Potential impact. Traore's efforts in regional security cooperation may lead to stronger collaborative frameworks among African countries to address common security threats. Long-term change. Enhanced regional security mechanisms, joint military operations, and intelligence sharing could improve stability in conflict-prone regions. African leaders may prioritize collective security responses to transnational challenges such as terrorism, organized crime, and border disputes. Social development and inclusive growth. Potential impact. Traore's initiatives in education, healthcare, and youth empowerment might spur African governments to invest more in human capital development. Long-term change. Increased access to quality education, healthcare, and vocational training could reduce poverty and inequality. Policies promoting gender equality and social inclusion may become more widespread, empowering marginalized groups and ensuring sustainable development. Environmental sustainability. Potential impact. Traore's focus on environmental stewardship and sustainable development may encourage African nations to adopt greener policies. Long-term change. African countries may prioritize conservation efforts, promote renewable energy projects, and implement climate resilience strategies. Policies aimed at mitigating environmental degradation and adapting to climate change could protect natural resources and ecosystems for future generations. Conclusion. Ibrahim Traore's leadership in Burkina Faso presents a transformative model for African governance, with potential far-reaching impacts on the continent's development trajectory. By prioritizing transparency, economic diversification, regional cooperation, social development, and environmental sustainability, Traore's approach could inspire a new era of responsive and resilient governance in Africa. While the future remains uncertain, the principles and initiatives introduced under Traore's leadership have the potential to shape a more prosperous, stable, and equitable Africa in the years to come. Implementing these changes will require sustained commitment, collaboration among African nations, and adaptation to local contexts to realize the full potential of Traore's influence on African governance. Final thoughts on the importance of leadership and policy influence in Africa's development. Leadership and policy influence play pivotal roles in shaping Africa's development trajectory, determining the continent's socio-economic progress, stability, and global standing. Here's why staying informed about African political developments is crucial. Impact of leadership. Effective leadership is fundamental to steering nations towards sustainable development and prosperity. Visionary leaders like Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso demonstrate how decisive leadership can drive transformative change, inspiring confidence, and mobilizing resources for national development. Policy influence. Innovative policies can address complex challenges such as poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation. Policies promoting transparency, economic diversification, social inclusion, and regional cooperation have the potential to uplift communities and foster resilience against global uncertainties. Regional dynamics. Africa's interconnectedness necessitates collaborative efforts among nations to address shared challenges, from security threats to economic disparities. Leaders who prioritize regional cooperation can forge alliances that enhance stability and promote sustainable growth across borders. Staying informed about African political developments empowers individuals to advocate for informed decision-making and accountability. By understanding the impact of leadership and policy choices, viewers can support initiatives that promote good governance, human rights, and inclusive development. Engagement and support. Active engagement with African political developments enables global citizens to support initiatives that promote peace, prosperity, and sustainability. Whether through advocacy, investment, or partnerships, every action contributes to shaping Africa's future trajectory. As global citizens, it is our collective responsibility to stay informed about African political developments and their implications. By supporting visionary leadership, advocating for inclusive policies, and promoting regional cooperation, we can contribute to a prosperous and sustainable Africa. Stay engaged. Stay informed. Together, let's empower Africa's leaders and communities to achieve their full potential and build a brighter future for generations to come. Remember, we're all part of this journey together. Let's keep exploring, learning, and growing. Until next time, stay curious and keep spreading those positive vibes. Thanks for joining in. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment, and hit subscribe to stay tuned for more exciting content coming your way.